Liz Cheney. Large L.
Big L.
She took a large L, didn't she? What was the final? I think it was like 37 points. Yeah, something like that, which I guess was foreseeable.
She won 2 counties in the state, both counties that Biden won. So, and, you know, I don't think this was any surprise to her or anybody else. Her final campaign ad was all about, like, anti-Trump, January 6th, et cetera, which if you're trying to win a Republican primary, probably not the strategy. So it's pretty clear from the end of her campaign that she was setting herself up for whatever was going to come next.
So my first question for you is, 93% of the time she votes with Trump.
Right.
So in terms of the actual voting record, horrendous. I would go as far as to say evil. She's pro-torture. She's in favor of every single war I've ever in my lifetime, right? So across the board, terrible. But do you have, based on the fact that she sort of lit her political career on fire in front of the world, do you have respect that she took a stand on this one issue, which admittedly is a very important issue?
Yeah, I do. I mean, again, I think she's a terrible person. I think the idea she said in her concession speech that she was like Lincoln. She basically compared herself to Abraham Lincoln. Like, come on. And we also shouldn't ignore the fact that once you cross that bridge and you're no longer with Trump and you decide to be against him, there's also, you know, career paths on that side as well. If you want to lean into the resistance lib thing,
CNN,
there is definitely a path for you there. She could easily get a CNN contributor gig. She could easily go and be a lobbyist. She could easily go and sit on like a defense contractor board. So I don't want to go too crazy with praising her, but you know, there are a million reasons to despise Liz Cheney, and the one thing that was like decent that she did in office is the thing that ends up getting her bounced out of office. And let's be clear, this person whose name I don't even remember, which kind of tells you something what this was ultimately all about. It was just about Trump and Liz Cheney's feelings towards Trump. Is going to vote exactly the way Liz Cheney did. It's not like this person has a better ideology in any way that we should be like, yes, this is going to be an improvement.
Well, yeah. Well, I would say it's actually worse because she's just as bad as Liz on all the policies. And then the one area where she disagrees is like Trump should be an emperor. Like Trump should, election shouldn't apply to him. He should be able to do whatever he wants.
Yes.
But now she's out there not exactly swatting aside the idea of running for president. In fact, she's sort of flirting with it and embracing it, and she's dropping these little hints all over the place. So my understanding of it originally, or my thought on it originally was, she's going to run as an independent for the purpose of taking 3%, 4%, 5% from Trump in the general election to serve as a spoiler to hand it over to the Democrat. That was my original thought on it. Then you had brought up to me, well, hold on now. With everything she's been talking about recently, like all she talks about is January 6th. All she talks about is Trump being bad. And so it's not even a guarantee she would take mostly from Republicans.
Well, I wouldn't
You might even get resistance liberals who
I wouldn't
who vote
even say it's not a guarantee. I would say it's, in my view, a near certainty that she would take more votes in the resistance lib lane because her approval rating is so much higher with Democrats at this point than it is with Republicans. In fact, even in that Republican primary, her last-ditch effort in order to win was to send mail out to Democrats to say, here's how you can switch your registration to be a Republican to vote in the Republican primary.
Yeah, but how'd that work?
Well, it's Wyoming, so obviously
I know, but my point is the resistance liberals, I think most of them, the overwhelming majority of them have Liz in perspective, where they're like I was listening to Sirius XM Progressive Talk Radio the other day. They're all resistance liberals except maybe Tom Hartman, who's the GOAT, and I love that guy. But they all said the same thing. I don't like Liz Cheney. She's wrong on everything. I never vote for president, but, props for lighting your career on fire to take a principled stand on this thing involving Trump. So my point is, it might be like a 50-50 type deal where if she runs, she does take some from the right and some from the left, but it's a moot point anyway, because then she would just have no impact.
Right.
So tell me because I thought, if she runs, she's going to run as an independent and try to serve as the spoiler effect to help the Democrat. It looks like that's not what she would do if she runs, that she'd actually try to run as a Republican, right?
Yeah, that's what seems to be what she's flirting with, where the goal would be to run in the Republican primary, not with the thought, I don't think she's so delusional to think she could beat Trump head to head.
Right.
And there have been some billionaires, Reid Hoffman's guy floated that Reid would, back her in such a scenario. I don't think they're so delusional to think that she could actually beat Donald Trump. But they're thinking, okay, we could get her on a debate stage with him. We could get her some money so she's running ads, hitting this guy on January 6th and whatever other case she wants to make against him. And that might ding him up so that he's easier to defeat in the general election. I think that's generally the thought. Now, go ahead. You tell me your reaction to that.
You finish.
Well,
I know what you're going to say.
There's a couple of problems with that. The chief one being that, Republicans are not the Republican elite apparatus is not going to want Liz Cheney to be on stage with Donald Trump, and they control it. So all they have to do, and Ron Brownstein wrote this down actually in The Atlantic, all they have to do is force all the candidates to sign a loyalty pledge saying, whoever wins the Republican primary, I'm going to back. Obviously, Liz Cheney is not going to back Donald Trump. She's even said she wouldn't back Ron DeSantis. So she's not going to sign that pledge. They can say, okay, you didn't sign the pledge, so we're not letting you on the stage, and that's that. So I think she might have, in that scenario, she may be blocked from getting on the debate stage altogether.
So we have a potential disagreement on this because I disagree with the statement the Republican elite apparatus doesn't want Liz Cheney on the stage, because I'm 100% convinced there's a public position and a private position among the establishment Republicans. And Mitch McConnell's the best example of this. Publicly, he'll say whatever he has to say to save his political ass about Trump. But privately, he's like, gotta go. He's hurting us. He's gotta go. Because they think we can't win a general election with this guy.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, and there's almost like a Republican establishment deep state war behind the scenes to try to let's get Liz Cheney on that stage. Oh no, we got to keep Liz Cheney off that stage. That'll be very interesting. I would love to see how that unfolds.
But see, I think that Trump has already stacked the RNC with his people. And I was reading that their fundraising apparatus is really tied up with him as well. So, I mean, last time around, there were some flirtations with, I don't know, Mark Sanford and some other people who were pretending like they were going to make some hopeless run against Trump. And the party was like, no, we're with Trump. We back him. He's going to be the nominee, and we're not really going to have a process, and that's that.
See, Okay, I'm more convinced than you are that this situation is fluid and not stagnant, and Trump facing 412 different lawsuits, and some are criminal, some are civil, and all these different things, they're not idiots. They know a guy who's indicted by the FBI and or going to be found guilty of criminal charges, we can't win with him in the general. So they're gonna try to save their own asses, the party's ass. And if that means amputating Trump, they're gonna try to do that. Now, it's going to be a war, but they're going to try to do that. I don't buy this notion that publicly they're in lockstep. Behind the scenes, they're panicking and trying to figure out a way to rid themselves of this guy.
I think it's a mixed bag. I think definitely some of the donor class feels that way. I think, Mitch McConnell and sort of his allies certainly feel that way. But Trump has done a lot to mold this party in his image at the national level and at the state level. I mean, you see in Arizona, you see them censoring anyone who goes against and knocking out in primaries, anyone who said, yes, actually, Biden did win here in Arizona. You saw that in Wyoming, Liz Cheney getting kicked out of the party even before she lost the primary, her being censored by the Wyoming party. So you see this in state after state where Trump loyalists have taken control of the party apparatus. And so if the establishment types, the Mitch McConnell types, were going to take this away from him, I think that ship has sailed. That was back in 2016. Maybe they had a better shot to sort of coalesce and do something then. Now he has so much power and so much control in the party. It's going to be very difficult to do anything other than what he wants. And the other thing I would say is just like the Democrats, we see very clearly that, they want to win, but that's not their only goal. It's the very same thing with the Republicans, too. They're looking individually to save their own asses. And it's very clear, based on the track record thus far, that the best way to do that is by cozying up to Trump and doing whatever he wants you to do.
So in the scenario that Liz Cheney actually does get in the debates.
Yeah.
I think that'd be very interesting
I'd like to
see.
watch it. I'd absolutely like to watch it.
Because here's the thing about Liz Cheney. And again, war criminal, pro-torture, voting record is evil, just praise Roe versus Wade being overturned. I can go on and on. I don't know if she's ever taken a vote that I agreed with.
Do you agree with me that it was admirable or courageous or however you want to put it, what she did with
my line on this has always been, this is literally the one issue where she's correct.
Yeah.
And the fact that she was willing to torture her own political career for it is I do think that you don't find many people who are willing to do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there is, in terms of how she presents, she's actually very similar to her dad. So ice water running through her veins. She's never felt
Probably through her heart too.
She's never felt a single emotion in her life.
Right.
And so I could like that very deadpan delivery where she's direct and to the point. There's not there's not flowery language around Liz Cheney. She just like speaks very plainly. And somebody like that who literally has nothing to gain from Trump on a stage with Trump is an interesting dynamic because all the other guys, when they were on the stage with Trump and Trump steamrolled them back in 2016, Marco Rubio, Jeb Bush, Ted Cruz, all of those little sycophants, they needed to make sure, like that guy was leading in the polls. So they didn't know how to attack him. Do I go right for the jugular? Do I not? Because they needed to have 1 foot in the camp, 1 foot out of the camp, just in case, hey, this guy wins, I want to have a future, et cetera, right?
Right.
That's not the situation for Liz. And Trump has never, I mean, they always say, the way to stand up to a bully is like somebody needs to directly stand up to the bully to let them know, like, bitch, you ain't all that.
Also, in those debates, I mean, just they had no idea how to handle this guy. I mean, they'd never seen anything like the way he was in a debate. Remember, they tried all these different things. Marco Rubio trying to, like, you know, compare dick sizes and call him Little Donald and all that stuff. Like, they just did not know how to handle him whatsoever.
So there were only a handful of times where they figured it out, but it was way too late. And it was actually Marco Rubio was one of them who figured it out towards the end. He was already out of it, that his numbers were terrible. It was towards the end. So he sort of went on a kamikaze mission. And he started basically talking with Trump as if they were two guys in a bar. And he was like, you know, if Trump was an asshole, he was a massive asshole back to him. And it worked. He got, you know, some loud applauses and loud cheers and things like that, but it was already too late for him. And then the other time, it was Chris Christie, but it wasn't Chris Christie going after Trump. It was Chris Christie on behalf of Trump going after Marco Rubio and destroying him.
Yeah.
But Chris Christie was very, you know, he was also like very buttoned up and too proper for the first 75% of his run. And then when he was already losing, he decided, you know, let Chris Christie be Chris Christie. And he started to be an asshole just like Trump.
Yeah.
And so I think they learned it later on, but it was already too late. And yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I'd like to see it. I'm obviously, needless to say, Trump is still the favorite. You and I had a discussion about this recently. You know, my opinion is he's a 60% chance of winning.
Yeah,
but
it's significantly more than that.
I don't, because you got to realize all these cases are heating up now, and they're legit. Trump's CFO pleading guilty and flipping on the Trump organization, the Georgia case, the FBI case.
In the general election, I agree with you. But we also see already what's the impact of the FBI raid. His poll numbers with the base have gone
Krystal,
up.
my point is he might end up in jail.
Yeah, and they might still vote for him from jail. I mean, I legitimately think that is a possibility.
That would literally be the most hilarious thing I've ever seen in American history. If the Republican Party votes for a man who's literally sitting in a jail cell and then gets him to the general and then he gets shellacked. Even fucking Kamala Harris would beat Trump if he's in jail.
Jail cell. I know, but I do not put it out of the realm of possibility at this point in our politics.
Well,
so,
there you go.
Listen, my general theory of the Republican Party, and actually of a lot of the Democratic Party too, is he has made himself the sole dividing line. So even if you've built up credibility with the MAGA base, look at Mike Pence. He did every freaking thing that they wanted him to do in the most disgusting, feeble way for 4 years. Remember, Trump would have those round tables where he made everybody tell him how amazing he was, and Mike Pence was the greatest bootlicker of all time. The minute that he did one thing they didn't want him to do and stop the steal, Trump turns on him and it's like, hang Mike Pence, and now he's done. He's dead to them. He's a rhino. So Trump is the only issue, and how you stand on him is the only issue in the Republican Party. So definitionally, the minute that you decide you're going to oppose him in a primary, the minute you're dead to a large portion of the Republican base. So that's why I'm so skeptical of the idea that someone could beat him at this point.
If you want to see me and Krystal Ball interview legends like Noam Chomsky, Cornel West, and more, subscribe to Krystal, Kyle, and Friends on Substack. $5 a month gets you the video version a day early. Remember, we take 0 ad dollars for this podcast. Or you can sign up on Substack for free and get the audio version a day later. Link in the video description box below.